And now for our final conversation of today, please welcome the Global Head of Hosting for Airbnb, Catherine Powell, in conversation with Skift founder and CEO, Rafat Ali.
All right, so thank you all for staying. This is the best session of the 2 days. Everybody has been great, but the best is coming now. Delighted to have Catherine Powell, who's the Global Head of Hosting. That's officially your title. You've been in this role now.
In this role, a year. It's not the role that I started with. In this role, a year and a half.
Tell what the role you started with.
I joined Airbnb January 2020, so 2 months before the pandemic, as head of experiences, in-person experiences, which I then had to suspend 2 months later. And then as the pandemic got worse and the business kind of cratered, Brian basically brought the homes and experiences businesses together, decided we needed to focus on what was core to our business, which was hosts. And so we created a hosting team, and I have a wonderful title of Global Head of Hosting. Which
obviously is a very important role, because a lot of your work as the business has come back and boomed is to get inventory online, to work with the host community for all the efforts that you're doing, including the thing that you just launched yesterday officially. I guess we have a video, Brian, that we want to show. Gives a sense, I think most of you know this because you're in this industry, but we still want a quick video.
Today, we're introducing the biggest change to Airbnb in a decade. The Airbnb 2022 summer release. We've created a whole new design built around Airbnb categories. Let me show you. Airbnb categories are collections of homes organized by what makes them unique. And so categories allow you to search by whatever your passion is. And it could lead you to a whole world of possibilities in towns you would have never known to search for. We now have a camping category, or a countryside category. There's even the Arctic. Or one of my favorite categories, OMG, including this yellow submarine. We've created a way for you to have even more options when you're looking for longer stays. It's a new feature that we call split stays. Now, split stays shows up whenever you're searching for a stay of longer than a week, and it splits your trip between 2 different homes. A lot of people really haven't left their house much for 2 years, and we want them to feel like we've got their back. And so we are creating air cover for guests. It's always included and always free and comes with these protections. I'm so excited about what we've made, but I'm even more excited for you to try it out.
And Brian, you were going to show some photos as well. This is, I don't know what the commentary on top of this is, by the way. But these are...
This is an A-frame.
This is an A-frame, A-frame. Brian, who was...
Here's the UFO in the OMG category. This is this is probably in design.
In design, because Brian is very passionate about design.
Also in design.
Probably in design as well. The thing that I'm curious about, all these beautiful homes, availability. I mean, are they ever available? Like the ones you featured, Submarine. When am I going to even be able to book it? Because it's probably booked up.
So
well, I guess
we have, well, the Submarine, yes, the Submarine may or may not be available. I have to say what you missed, because OMG is also one of my favorite categories, and what you missed is my favorite listing, which is the original bus, and I'm going to age myself here, from the Spice Girl movie, Spice World. It is the Spice Bus, the 1997 Spice World movie. So if you are a Spice Girls fan...
Well, anybody above, I don't know.
A certain age.
Above a certain age. Let's just leave it there.
So we have 6 million listings. These categories, 56 categories, there are 4.4 million listings in these categories.
In those categories now,
so there is a tremendous choice and breadth, and we have incredible listings. So there will be a lot of amazing listings that are available.
So Brian was in town, and I was at the event when he announced it, or when he was describing it to us day before. And one of my questions to him was, what is the host reaction to this? I mean, I guess a lot of it is what people don't realize is this is not just editorial curation. This is machine learning first, and then humans going in trying to categorize, making sure that every listing is there. So from a host perspective, since I guess hosts knew this because you were already doing this, but since yesterday, what has been the reaction of hosts? There are 56 categories today. How do you see this benefiting hosts?
So we have had categories before. We introduced I'm Flexible last year, which was a flexible way to search, either through being flexible through dates or flexible through where to go. That introduced categories. We had 20 odd categories then. That tool has been used 2 billion times since May last year. So it was clear that there was a desire from our guests, and hosts could see that, to have this sort of flexibility. And we've curated the categories. So they're curated around themes around style like design or A-frames, location, so beach, mountain, Arctic, or near an activity, so skiing, surfing, camping. But then you're right, the listings within each category, there is machine learning which looks at the title of a listing, the description that a host puts in, the data, the structured data that a host puts in, the photography, which is incredibly important.
Yeah, he was saying that the first opening photograph on the category page had to, if it's a pool, you better show a pool.
Yeah, yes, and if it's skiing or if it's a view, we have an amazing views. It has to have a beautiful view. And that's really important. We also scrape reviews. We look for keywords. So for example, we have a grand piano category.
Right, I saw
so
that.
that will come in can pick that up from reviews. And we took hosts through it before. We took our leaders, we have a host advisory board, community leaders we took them through previews of what was happening. And there were a couple of things that they were excited about. One, it was clear that the choice of listings that was going to be available and how people were going to search was going to surface many, many more listings. If you put where I'm going to go and the dates I'm going to go into a search box, the results that you get are going to be very, very limited versus browsing categories. And even if you browse a category, you decide you want to do France, we will still have categories for France. So the scope of what our guests are going to see is much larger. So they saw that. They also saw that they're going to have to keep their listings up to date. They're going to have great photos. So that's great for them. I mean, it's really important for us that they do that. And they came up with ideas for categories. So I was speaking to a Korean journalist yesterday, and they want hanoks, which are traditional Korean homes. We have ryokans and trulios in the category. And so hopefully we will add hanok, Korean traditional homes. So they'll come up with ideas as well. We'll partner with our hosts. We're not done.
Is there concern from hosts, or your anticipation of it, of only the most popular things will show up in the categories, and we're going to be, the long tail may not happen? Well,
we have 6 million homes. This is a way to find more of those 6 million homes through categories and through split stays, which Brian showed briefly just now. We will be surfacing more listings to guests. That is absolutely clear. Plus, we have what you can't see in the demo, but we have an all homes category. So all the homes are there at any point. Plus,
and the regular search is still there.
And the regular, you see where to there, but you can go into regular search.
And you can do that. Will paid listings come in there?
We kind of periodically look at paid listings. It's not on the roadmap at the moment, and it's definitely not part of this offering.
We should do some research set on the paid listings potential for Airbnb, the delta if they start doing it.
Oh no, we know there's, our CFO knows there's potential. there's definitely potential, but it's not not on the roadmap at the moment.
Not on the thing. So what's the state of regulation today?
Our regulation we are regulated. We work very closely with our communities where we host. And in fact, I would say 80% of our top 200 markets are regulated, and we work closely to ensure that to advance those regulations. It's really important for us, though, that the regulations are clear and fair, because 90% of our hosts are everyday people. and they need to be proportionate or commensurate to regulations for everyday people. So it's important for us that we partner closely with
But is the
cities.
90% of bookings coming from people who are individual hosts versus, you're saying 90% of hosts are individual, but are the 90% of bookings coming through that? Aren't the majority of the bookings coming from
It's like maybe like, you know better, it's like 50-50, I think.
50-50?
Maybe a little.
I mean,
It's
they have
higher.
the data, we have estimates, but yeah.
It's higher for core hosts, individual hosts.
We had a discussion earlier today about the difference between vacation rental managers and hosts, and there's a tension that's been there forever in this industry. Of course, got exacerbated when Airbnb became a big thing. As part of your role of global head of hosting, how much are you talking to vacation rental managers, or what's the biggest thing you're hearing, and how are you solving for it?
So we look at our hosts as as hosts. I mean, we really honestly don't consider it different. We have, when property managers join the platform, they're part of my hosting community. We have tools that they can use to join, absolutely. But what's important to us is the hosted experience that they give their guests. And so we do workshops. I do workshops every week with our hosts. We have property managers on the workshops. We have individual hosts in those workshops. And we hear from them about wanting to, they're interested in the categories. They're interested in what we call the art of hosting and how to create that great guest experience.
And you were saying earlier, we were talking about how they want to figure out the individual host connection that maybe they don't have.
They know that what is key to the Airbnb brand is the hosted experience and that connection, that unique connection that hosts can give. And hosts don't necessarily have to be present for a hosted experience, but that quality, what you feel when a host gives a personal touch, the welcome, the delight that our hosts, the individual hosts work hard to do that. They are very interested in learning how to do that. I was in London earlier in the year and did a roundtable with property managers who were asking to come and do onboarding sessions with Airbnb to understand more about the Airbnb culture. Were asking about what incentives they could give their managers in terms of having high quality ratings, because they want to feel part of the Airbnb brand. I mean, our brand is so strong. 90% of our traffic is direct. It's a noun and a verb, and it is the one brand that covers the experience, the experience that we have on our platform, whether it's a shared room or a luxury, whether it's in any one of those categories, whether you're a property manager, or an individual host, it's all under one brand.
Right.
And they want to be part of that brand.
Does luxury matter to Airbnb
Yes, luxury.
as a sector?
Yes, luxury matters. We have a beautiful
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
a category called luxury.
The $100,000 place, would anybody book it on Airbnb?
We want to make sure that we have choice. So we have something for everyone. We have the luxe homes there, but we also have, if you look, we have bed and breakfast, and we have shared homes,
Yeah.
which have the private rooms there.
Speaking of dollars, pricing, one of the things that has obviously emerged in your earnings, you talked about this last week. Airbnb price ADRs have been going up over the last year, 2.5 year and a half. Lots of social media and complaints about Airbnb has become too expensive, or inventory is not available. So let's talk about inventory first. What's the state of inventory today, and how much of your time is spent expanding that?
A lot of my time is spent focused on host inventory. Our inventory is, we have 6 million listings in 220 countries in over 100,000 cities and towns. And where we become constrained, where things are not available, and you would have heard Brian talk about this, is when people go to the same destination at the same time. One of the reasons that we were so keen to launch I'm Flexible last year, seeing that people are more flexible when and where they travel, is also because we can redistribute travel, we can redistribute tourism. And as you do that, then clearly you become less constrained. What we're doing with the categories, what we're doing with split stays, is basically sending demand to where we have supply. So we continue to recruit hosts. We have over 4 million hosts. We see that our host supply grows where we have strong demand. So during the pandemic, we've seen host supply grow in non-urban areas. As demand has returned to urban areas, to cities, we've seen host supply grow there as well. But what's important to us is the redistribution of travel.
Do you think the cities will be as big a part of Airbnb as they used to be pre-pandemic?
We're seeing urban growth. We're really excited to see urban growth return. The cities have been really impacted by the pandemic. Our urban hosts have been impacted by the pandemic. Our Q1 results were great, and the strength of our business is great. It's been fantastic to see domestic, rural stay so strong, but urban has come back to pre-pandemic levels, and international obviously has also come back as borders open up.
One of on the pricing question, you addressed it.
Yeah, you had a second, sorry.
Yeah, the second question is pricing, and I know you addressed it in the earnings call as well. The pricing rise has stabilized a little bit, and there are two factors causing the pricing. Talk about that.
So the ADR, our price, has gone up. Two factors. There is supply and demand.
Right.
Pricing obviously is a factor of supply and demand. I should point out that our hosts set their own price.
Right.
We advise them, we give them pricing tools which will help advise them about the right price in order to ensure that they attract demand. But in the pandemic, we saw basically the travel was larger groups, families, moving to rural areas and taking homes, large homes. And that combination is a more expensive combination.
From shared
from shared or from urban or from solo or couples traveling. So that was driving up the ADR. So as you see people returning to cities, as you see, also we had strong North American travel. We think it's also going to drive up the ADR. So as urban travel returns, international travel returns, the ADRs will stabilize.
Yeah, with the idea that international travel, for instance, in Asia, the dollar amount is lower such that the average price comes down.
Yes.
One of the things I know you're working on furiously, and Brian mentioned it, I think, there's a lot of tension around full pricing, showing the full pricing, including
upfront pricing.
Upfront pricing. So talk about that.
So upfront pricing, we are looking at upfront pricing. Upfront pricing is, the challenge about that is you think you see one price, you're nodding because I'm sure you've gone through this, you see one price and then when you get to check out, suddenly there are all these other fees that have been added, and one of them being cleaning fees. And so we are absolutely looking at ways in which we can be more transparent upfront with our pricing. And we've done a test with that, and we've then focused at the moment on the kind of whole redesign of the app. The redesign of the app also means that the pricing experience, we just got to kind of settle that, and then we will look again at the upfront pricing.
And in terms of your KPIs from a host perspective, what's the most important KPI for you?
The well-being of the 4 million hosts that I kind of oversee. So I am focused certainly on host recruitment, so inspiring people to be hosts. But probably my biggest priority is making sure that it is easy to become a host. They're individual people. We need simple tools. And one of the advantages of being a tech company...
What's the difficulty today from your perspective of becoming a host?
Well, we've made it a lot easier because we've made it super simple to become a host. We've reduced it to 10 steps. So that was one thing. It was not easy.
From, I don't know if you know.
From significantly more than 10.
Okay.
So that was one piece that we were very focused on. We want to make sure that I spend a lot of time understanding the life cycle of a host. When might a host churn? So we know, for example, that the first few bookings are really, really important. So we introduced last year a program called Ask a Superhost, and we connected new hosts to like a Superhost mentor, so that they could ask those questions early on. And if we know that if they have a great experience, and of course we want a guest to have a great experience, then they're less likely to churn. That's another understanding. So I use the workshops that I have to understand what their challenges are, what their pain points are. There may be products that we need to update or policies, and I'll take that and feed it back to policy team or product team and make sure that we're creating the right tools for them to be successful.
You used to, and this was before you were there, early on, Airbnb used to throw these host community events. They used to fly over thousands of people that used to come in San Francisco until it became too big and they didn't do it. Do hosts consider themselves a part of the community, and what could you do more?
They very definitely consider themselves part of the community, and they would love to gather again together. And we're looking at when the right moment would be. And we need to, I mean, the best that we can do is go out and physically meet them in person again. So much of what we do, as I said, we have workshops with them regularly, but they're via Zoom. We have clubs all over the world, host clubs, and we need to...
That are not officially affiliated with Airbnb?
They are, no, they have their own groups as well, but these are absolutely affiliated with Airbnb. We have host leaders.
Okay.
We appoint them, host leaders, and they become our advocates. So for example, all the product changes that we've just made, those were the leaders that we met. We showed them, we previewed the categories, and they then not only become advocates, but they can help explain in their clubs what's going on. They can answer the questions.
How do you
navigate? And the more that we can contact them, be in touch with them, bring them in. We've actually started co-development sessions with them, and we're giving them beta versions of tools that we are going to be launching so that they can use them, play with them, and get their feedback. So it's really important that they feel like partners, but that we really do treat them like partners and we get their feedback early on.
We do have time for questions, so if anybody has any questions here or anybody watching online, if you have questions, please add them. Wow, somebody just heard our call. I was going to ask about hotels, and hotels, Bought Hotel Tonight sort of still exist as a brand. Hotels, initially, Airbnb wanted hotels to be a bigger part of it. With the pandemic, sort of that timeline went away, I guess, at some point. What's the state of adding? You have hotels, obviously, some sorts of hotels, but what's the state of hotels becoming part of, I guess, host or the listings themselves?
Well, they are. We have Hotel Tonight, and we have hotels on Airbnb Inc., as it were.
Yeah.
We have bed and breakfasts.
Right.
We have boutique hotels, and they have a place in our listings, in our inventory, and they'll continue to have that.
So basically, nothing to announce today.
Nothing to announce today.
Okay. This was your chance. How will you prevent hosts from? This is the question I'm reading. How will you prevent hosts from gaming the algorithm? This is what I was, I guess, hinting at before. Adding ski A-frame to the title when not appropriate. You're seeing this happen on Amazon a lot now.
So we have machine learning that sweeps through for the structured data, the descriptions and all of that, and the photos, and then we manually review each. Yeah.
So
we have a team. We have what we call our scaled ops team who check that. It's incredibly important. I mean, we've just launched Air Cover for guests, which is a guarantee that what you book is what you get. I mean, we have to be pretty, certain about the guarantee of the listing, which we are, and we trust our hosts.
The Air Cover was a product that was there last year. You launched.
So we launched Air Cover for hosts last year, which gives the protection for host damage and liability.
Right.
1 million in host protection for if they have damage, and 1 million in liability, and protection host. We've expanded Air Cover for guest protection, and this is basically, as I just said, we want guests to book with confidence, and this is really important as we have more guest booking than ever before on Airbnb. Many guests who don't know Airbnb, who aren't familiar with the brand, and therefore not familiar with staying in someone else's home, and we want them to be confident. We want them to know that what they book is what they're going to get. So if they arrive and if something goes wrong, I mean, if it was an A-frame and it's clearly not an A-frame, then we will rebook or refund if they want to be refunded. Or if something goes wrong, if you book Florida, which is one of our trending destinations this summer, the air conditioning breaks down in the middle of your stay and your host can't fix it, then we will rebook you.
Is anything available in Miami? I'm guessing not, right? I mean, it doesn't look like it's so popular. I'm guessing one of the top cities right now for Airbnb. New York used to be, or Paris used to be pre-pandemic? I don't exactly remember.
Paris is one of the top. Funny enough, Miami's not certainly not the top for us.
Not the top anymore. I guess there's nothing available there probably. What are you doing to ensure hosts' exclusivity? Do you worry about hosts cross-listing other sites, or is it not a major concern?
It's not a major concern. We know that the majority of our hosts don't cross-list. We do know that some cross-list. And my focus is ensuring that the experience that they get on Airbnb is uniquely Airbnb. We have products like AirCover for hosts, which gives them this 1 million in damage protection, 1 million in host
Which I guess is a way to differentiate.
Which differentiates them. And we have, they have me, which they don't have on other platforms, someone dedicated to hosting. So we're very focused on making sure that their experience is differentiated and that they feel part of a community that really is different.
How can hotels be better Airbnb? I guess I asked this question. How can hotels be better Airbnb hosts? I don't know if there's any particular way. So they would offer, I guess they offer individual rooms. I guess that's what it is, right?
Yeah, which isn't quite the same thing.
Which isn't quite the same thing. Okay, we still have about 5 minutes. There's another question. How's Airbnb addressing all the county and city tax requirements that keep being added?
So there's a short answer to this, which is we comply everywhere where we need to in terms of tax remittance. So,
is there anything you would like the governments to solve for you? That's one of the biggest challenges for you?
Well, it's going back to the point that I made earlier. Our focus really is where there is a desire for regulation, and we're having a conversation at the moment with the EU to have an EU-wide regulation for short-term rental, is that it is clear and fair for everyday people to be able to use. We want people to be able to take advantage of hosting. We know that it is, for many, it's a really important economic lifeline. 40% of our hosts in the US last year confirmed that hosting helped them pay their rent, kept them in their homes. And we know it's incredibly important. These are everyday people. So where there's regulation, we would like to work with cities to make that regulation fair for them and to protect housing as well, where it's important.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the other side would be that Airbnbs, and there's all kinds of studies, this side and that side, about Airbnb's role in housing stock and how does them. And now, I guess we've had some discussions over the last 2 days on, large players like Blackstone and others coming into the sector, buying single-family homes and then putting them on Airbnb type services to the loss of inventory for housing in cities. It's a big issue.
Affordable housing is a complex issue with many contributing factors. And as I said, that's why we spend a lot of time making sure that we work really closely with communities so that their cities are stronger and fit for the people who live there and who visit. But there's another side to our relationship with cities and communities, which is also something coming out of the pandemic, which is those that need travel, that need visitors. I mean, we've worked with 140 countries and cities, destination marketing organizations, to help drive demand to their cities, to help rebuild tourism, to help drive remote work. We've worked with Tulsa and Tucson, we've worked with South Africa and Bali, we've just done a partnership with Visit North Carolina.
And what's the partnership?
With Visit North Carolina?
Yeah, just as an example.
Well, that one is to drive. We will basically work with them on marketing to drive, and that's how we can use our categories and our split stays, for example, to drive our demand to where they need it.
Versus just the same places.
Yes. And so, I mean, in North Carolina, I was looking in North Carolina the other day, the split stays, this is such a great example. 2 weeks I was looking up 2 weeks in North Carolina, and the split stays offered a week on the coast and a week in the mountains in two places that...
This is automatically suggesting...
Yeah, that I'd never heard of. So it's a good example of dispersing travel to where they want it.
Speaking of remote work, you famously announced as a company last week or the week before that you're going completely remote, 5,000 employees, I think?
Not completely remote, completely flexible.
Completely flexible.
You have the choice, we still have offices, you have the choice to work in the office, and some people either want to or need to, or you have the choice to work remotely.
And I guess you're sort of living the brand because you're selling the dream as well of people being able to live and work anywhere.
Yes.
There was this, I guess, statistic that the people that are landing on your careers page has shot up.
Yeah, no, the
some
day we
astronomical
announced it, we
number.
had 800,000 visitors to our careers page. And we have an employee base of 6,000, so it's obviously what people want.
Let's get a couple of quick questions. Will the company ever mandate life safety measures such as carbon monoxide detectors for hosts?
Yeah, we take the safety of our community incredibly seriously, and we have lots of measures in place to ensure safety. Carbon monoxide detectors, we do a lot of work educating hosts, and actually we provide them with carbon monoxide detectors for free.
Okay.
We can't, they need to then fix them.
Right.
And we ask the questions when they list their listing, whether or not they have a carbon monoxide detector, and if they don't, we will make sure that it's really clearly listed. It's struck out that they don't have one.
This last question, do Superhost participants enjoy special discounts on fee or enjoy monetary incentives for their feedback?
Superhosts do have certain benefits. They get certain travel credits and other perks. They have a special dedicated line, but they get Airbnb travel credits.
Last question from my side, are you living the Airbnb life yourself? And why are you not?
I do it. I don't live it permanently, but I do it when I go in. My sons are kind of spread out. One is at university in Colorado, so I actually managed to spend 2 weeks there working remotely and seeing him at the weekend, but living in an Airbnb and seeing him at the weekends, which was so much more preferable for him than me turning up and living with him for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that was perfect. And my other son, who's in Seattle, we're thinking with my husband actually living in Vancouver, which I've never visited, and going down and seeing him. So we want to use it. I've been in the States now for nearly 4 years, and I want to take advantage of the policy and live in different states around the US.
Well, that's great.
So,
thank you, Catherine. This was great.
it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We hope to host you again
Would love
at
that.
a Skift conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.